now I'm going to talk about the master section. So we already talked about the individual channel strips and how this works. But then there's a section here that's kind of different. But most of it works kind of along with this. We already really talked about the main routing and how that works. But above that, there is auxiliary masters. So just like we were routing this to mix and mono and the subgroups, and then we were controlling those master faders here, the auxiliaries have masters. So for example, if I have auxiliary 1 master all the way off, then turning this auxiliary 1 isn't going to do anything because I'm cutting this signal all the way. So now I have to turn this up before I'll hear anything on the stage. Right. Pretty simple. Now there's also AFL, which means after fader listen buttons here. And so if I push this signal gets routed through the monitoring bus. So you're going to start seeing lights here that indicate the level of this bus. And you're also able to listen to the bus through the headphones. So now if I turn this up, start seeing lights show up here, and you'd be able to hear that in the headphones. Okay. Which the after fader listen is actually a really good tool for monitor that I don't take advantage of nearly enough. But oftentimes you want to, before maybe making a change that one of the musicians is requesting, you want to listen to what the overall mix sounds like. And so what you can do is hit after fader listen on that monitor, listen to it with the headphones, and what you're listening for is typically musicians are going to ask for something to be turned up. They rarely ask for something to be turned down. But oftentimes the reason they're asking for it to be turned up is because they can't hear it, and that's because something else is too loud, really. But oftentimes they don't necessarily know that. They know they can't hear acoustic guitar, but they don't realize it's because the drums are way too loud. Right. And so the after fader listen is a quick way to go, oh wow, some vocalist perhaps is like way louder than everyone else, and they don't realize that that's why they can't hear anything else on stage.
So it helps you fix the problem, and then
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Instead of just turning the volumes up, you can be like, oh, I can turn this down, and that
you
way
always want to turn something down if you can instead of turning something else up. Yeah. Okay. Which is actually also a principle with the EQ. Usually you want to cut before you boost, because you have to remember that if you boost a signal here, you're actually playing with this input volume. So say you were close to clipping, and then you're boosting one of the frequency ranges a whole bunch. You can actually end up overdriving the whole channel, even though your input gain is set to a point where it looks okay. So you gotta typically try to cut frequency ranges before you boost them. So if you can't hear enough definition in a voice, maybe the answer is to boost 3 kilohertz, but it might actually be to cut 400 hertz and take some of the muffled sound away. So keep that in mind there, and also whenever you're mixing the monitors too. So above the auxiliary master knobs, there are 2 stereo channels that are basically compressed versions of these channels. So same idea, they have inputs on the back, you have a sensitivity or gain for that channel here, you have a 2-band equalizer, so all you basically have is treble and bass. And I think the reason they do that, besides saving space, is you're typically running a CD or something that really shouldn't need much EQ. So they compress that down. Then you have 2 knobs for auxiliaries, and they control either output to auxiliaries 1 and 2, or if you click this switch, then it's 3 and 4. So you can only route these through 4 auxiliary buses, and you can only do 2 at a time. So again, they've kind of limited you because they're probably expecting you to use a CD or something that you don't need to send to monitors anyways. Then there's a level for the main. So this knob is basically the equivalent to this fader. So again, you have routing buttons. Here they're simplified though. Down, if this button is pressed, it means you're going to mix. If it's not pressed, you're going to subgroup 1, 2 for this channel. On this channel, if it's not pressed, you're going through subgroups 3, 4. So your routing is much more limited, but again, typically you don't need that much in this case.
You just go straight to the mix.
Yeah, in this case, we're just going to the mix, and then you can control the level of this channel in the mix bus by turning this rotary. And then they also have pre-fader buttons, just like these, for setting the level or listening to the signal before you route it
through.
Yeah, so pretty simple, almost identical to these, just compressed. On the right-hand side, there is a phantom power button, which is used to power condenser microphones and active DIs and things like that on stage. So what this switch actually does is puts 48 volts on all of the mic inputs on the back. So it actually sends quite a bit of electricity to the stage to power things like microphones. So for example, the microphone we're using for recording, a condenser microphone, requires phantom power because it's a condenser microphone.
It doesn't have a battery in it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, most of the microphones we use, like the SM58s for vocals or 57s for instruments, are dynamic microphones, and they don't require phantom power.
Okay.
So this board has one global switch that turns it on and off, but a lot of boards have individual switches because typically it's bad principle to send phantom power to a device that doesn't require it because you're actually putting extra voltage.
Which we're doing all of our stuff right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not the best.
It's not the best, but SM57s and 58s are designed to be used that way, so it's not a big deal.
Right.
There are some things that you'll destroy if you do this. For
Like
example,
a
if you
mic that's not built for it.
if you miswire these and hook up like a guitar or something, you'll
the
destroy
wrong-
the guitar by sending phantom power to it. Or if you have these routed in such a way that they actually are going into a device that has phantom power, you can destroy the device or you can destroy the channel strip on this board because you're actually sending quite a bit of voltage now. Additionally, it also means that if ever there was a short circuit, someone could get electrocuted. So like you've seen, like anytime we baptize people, they're like really careful with the mic, and that's because we're
Phantom
sending
power.
a whole bunch of electricity. Because this is making a huge change to the electricity, it makes a really loud noise if you turn it on and off while the amps are on. So you never want to adjust, you never want to press or unpress this button while this is hooked up to amplifiers of any kind.
Would you want to shut the amplifiers down first? Or?
Yeah, you would definitely want any amplifiers that this board's hooked up to be off before you press this
So
button.
you turn those off, return them back.
Yep.
You turn that on, and then you turn those back on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So that's phantom power. We use it, all of our DIs on the stage, direct boxes, which I'll talk about some other time, are active DIs, which means they require either 48 volts to be on the line or they require a battery.
Okay.
And batteries are a pain, so
We just power it through the board.
yeah.
Same with the condenser mics for the piano.
Yeah.
Yep, condenser mics on the piano. There's a condenser mic in the drums. Yeah,
Okay.
just a couple things. Underneath that, there is a talkback level and routing for a talkback mic. And basically what this is you can hook up a microphone to the board directly here,
So you can,
and then you can talk
yeah.
to the auxiliary outputs or the main output. So I can hold this button, and then
Talk.
anything I'm
walkie-talkie.
putting into this input just goes to the auxiliaries. So you can use it to talk to the musicians on the stage.
It's like a
or-
walkie-talkie.
Exactly. It can be really convenient if
if you're far away.
you're far away, or if you have an electric guitarist that just will not quit playing and you don't feel like yelling over him. Then there are two stereo returns that we're not currently using, but they're kind of like a very compressed channel. So they're actually inputs on the back, and all you do is set the level on the mix bus. So this always gets routed to the mix bus. There's no option, and this just sets the level. So for example, one thing you could use this for is for an effects return. So like right now we route all the effects out an auxiliary, but then once that signal's processed, it has to come back in the board somewhere. We currently put it on a regular channel strip, which gives us full EQ control and routing and all of that
Effects.
stuff,
Okay.
and then a main level. This could be used for that. It expects a line level, so you don't even have to set a gain. You just turn it up or down, and it only goes through the mix. So it's basically just a really, really simple stereo channel. Underneath that, there is a 2-track level and a button to use the 2-track. So basically, this is another stereo channel, but what it's designed to be used for is something that totally replaces the mix bus. So if you push this, anything that's coming in the 2-track input will go straight to mix, and all of the rest of the routing gets turned off.
Oh.
So what they recommend you use this for is if you have like a CD or something, you can run it in here, press this button for like pre-service CD or something, and then anything else you do will not affect what you're hearing out of the mix bus. This is the only thing that's going to be sent out. So it's actually a little bit dangerous because if you press this button during a service everything is going to go off.
Oh, okay.
So that's why there's, you know, a caution symbol here and it says replaces mix output.
So we use this on a Sunday morning.
We actually don't use this. We
You don't use
run we run like our CD and stuff through this channel strip, which gives us a little bit more control. And I don't like this because it's risky and you can't do a smooth transition. It's like all or nothing. So if you wanted to fade a CD in, you can't really do that because you're cutting off everything else and then you're turning it up.
Okay.
So we don't use it right now. It's kind of limited, but it's there in case you need it. Underneath that are a bunch of monitoring buttons. So this set of LEDs here is controlled by either the pre-fader, if you have it selected, and if you have it selected, then this light shows up, which lets you know if you have a button pressed somewhere else that this has this. And another thing is that you can pre-fader multiple instruments at a time, and they'll all get routed through this monitoring bus, basically. But when you're not pre-fadering, you can hit mix or 1, 2, or 3, 4 to listen to just the subgroups or just the mix bus if you want to, or the mono or 2-track. And then there's a phones level, which just sets the level of the headphone output on the mixer.
Okay.
And that's basically the entire master section. So as far as on top of the board, that's basically it.
On
There's
top.
lots of stuff on the back, but that's it.